This is Swarfcast. I'm Noah Graff. I am very honored to be with Will Healy, manufacturing thought leader and a board member at the AMIP in Cincinnati. Welcome to the show, Will.
Really excited to be here and talk with you today, Noah. So, if we start at the very beginning, I'll give you the 2-minute spiel. I have a mechanical engineering degree from Purdue University, but you don't want me to engineer anything. I spent my entire engineering degree. I was the guy building study groups and forcing everyone to talk to each other when no one wanted to talk to each other. And I would learn things from one group and then trade that information to another group to learn things in that group that I traded to a third group to get information to trade to the first group. And so I was like the ultimate networker in engineering school, and you couldn't pass engineering school without like a huge army of networking. You really could not. The top number one kids that were going to go to grad school could, but no one else could. So I built a lot of networks, and I was always the one kind of like organizing people and things. So that was just always who I was. I knew I did not want to be an engineer, so I was looking and heard about this idea of technical sales. That sounded interesting. So I took a sales trainee job at an automation company, Balluff. It's in Florence, Kentucky. And I've worked at Balluff for the last 16 and a half years, give or take.
What was the term? Technical networking?
Technical sales.
Technical sales, sorry.
Which is pretty common now, and a lot of engineers are aware of it as a career path. But when I was an engineer, it was definitely not a career path. And at the time, there was no like engineering business or engineering management degrees. That's all things that you can get now 20 years later. But when I was in school, that was not something you could get. You either got an engineering degree, you got a business degree, but you didn't get an engineering business degree. And so, they made programs like that after I left for people like me. But anyways, so I was a sales trainee. I learned about manufacturing in the industry. It was a really fun job. My job was to follow around the industry experts. So guys that already had 15, 20 years in the industry. I literally was their shadow, schlepping all their demo cases and setting everything up and building the PowerPoints. And there were 3-4 of these guys on the team. And so I learned everything about how automation works in packaging. I learned how automation works in automotive tier suppliers and powertrain. And metal cutting and turning and then welding and stamping and forming. So I got this and then a lot of automotive assembly and automotive tier for like seating and interiors and stuff. So I got this really awesome blend of a lot of different industries that I did, supporting those guys and learning things from those guys.
So you ended up learning the important stuff anyways, just by following them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Because they made crazy promises to customers, and then I figured out how to deliver them. That was basically what I did. And then I was product manager for 2 different products. I was the cable product manager for a couple of years, and then I was the networking product manager for a number of years. And so I learned about product management and inside the company and how to bring suppliers on and what it takes to have a supplier business. And I learned about the business side of the company. And then for about 5 more years, I did marketing management. So I was managing like the communications team and the strategy team and the trade show team. The whole time I was building trade show demos and working trade shows for the industry. So the industry manager would say, I want a demo of a automated welding cell. And I would physically build with other trainees and with co-op students. We would build the trade show demos that we took to the show. And so for the last 16, 17 years of my life, I've been going to 5 to 15 trade shows a year, depending on the show. So either as an exhibitor or as a presenter or as an attendee, just depending on what I needed to do, whether it was research or whether I was presenting or whether I was exhibiting as an exhibitor.
Interesting.
And so for the last couple of years, I've been doing strategy, and mostly what I've been doing is thought leadership. So presenting at conferences and networking at the conferences and positioning the company and positioning myself as an expert in industrial automation.
Wow. Okay. And you're clearly very strong on social media. Um,
Try to be.
this is a total weakness of mine. I'm giving a new extra effort to build the podcast. I entered into this training course. It's called Grow the Show, and
Yep.
their thing is you have to have targeted daily engagement, and get in with the people, I guess people like you, who are
Could be, yeah.
you know in the industry. And yeah, I discovered you. I saw your posts, and then you graciously responded to my post. For everybody out there just wondering how this interview came to be, I went I'm going to IMTS, like a lot of you out there, and I thought, I'm trying to figure out how am I going to get the most out of this show. I've been to many IMTSs, I've been to many trade shows around the world. I often get things out of them. It's often not exactly what I plan to get out of them, but I come in, I think, maybe without a good plan. I'm a lot of different things. I'm a machinery dealer. We have a website and we have a podcast, and I really want to build the podcast. So it's always been like, okay, so you're going up to these booths and you want to meet the people at the booth. You want to learn about the products for your own education, for your own networking, um, maybe to get new interviews. If you listen to the podcast some, or read our blog some, you'll see that I'm sort of obsessed with this word and concept of serendipity.
Yeah.
And I feel like a conference like IMTS, um, it should be just like a big pool of serendipity. There's just so many chances for important things to happen, people to meet, new business, ideas to percolate. And it's also very easy for very little to happen if you don't go about it in the right way. If I mean, you can kind of go silently through and don't talk to anybody. And maybe you can still, maybe you're just there to take notes and observe the technology, and maybe that works for you. Um, but I think just the idea of, who do I talk to? How do I talk to them? Um, how should I organize myself when I'm at this show? What should I look for in people I'm networking with? Because, it sucks when you don't want to like just dismiss people, right? But then you spend an hour talking to somebody and it turned out it really wasn't a great use of your time. But then again, that's the hard part. You might not have known, right? Sometimes the people you don't expect are going to be important and interesting are. Since you have been an exhibitor and you've attended a lot, sounds like a lot more than I have, and probably analyzed this stuff a little bit more. Uh, Pretend you are an attendee, one of our listeners in precision machining. They've been looking forward to IMTS for probably years now because of the pandemic. They've got some stuff they want to see. How would you advise people? And obviously, there's different ways to approach the show to get different things out of it. What are some of the ways somebody could approach a show like IMTS, a ginormous show? A few good ways to approach it, because there's not just one good way.
Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing you have to realize is if you go to a show like IMTS without a plan, you will walk a lot, you will not see as much as you want to, and you will probably not see the things you really needed to see. Because the trick is if you're riding
beautiful soundbite. That's totally going to be
right,
my teaser. Go on.
Go for it. I mean, that's really the trick, right? If you don't have that plan, you're really in big trouble, because they're going to unload you from the bus. You're staying at a hotel, you get on the shuttle, they unload you from the bus, and they're going to unload you in the main hall. And especially if you're interested in machining, they're unloading you at north and south. And so you follow the flow of traffic. You get up to the top of the floor and you look around and you wander into South, and you don't realize you.
For the people who haven't been to IMTS, explain North and South.
Yeah, totally. So there are like 4 major exhibition areas at IMTS, and that's a really great point because Noah, it can be overwhelming.
Absolutely.
And there are 3 major buildings. The main building, the one where you get dropped off, you pick up your Ubers, you do all of that. You get picked up and dropped off and stuff. Typically in the north-south building. That's the main building. It's the one you see the pictures of with all the glass. That's
McCormick Place.
McCormick Place, north-south. Okay, and then on that you ride all these escalators up to the main floor. That's level 3, and that's where the north is to the left. North is to the left and south is to the right. And then there's like a bridge that goes across Lakeshore Drive. You walk over this beautiful bridge, you can see the city, and that is Lakeside or east
everybody,
sometimes.
I'm going to interrupt you. It sounds like it's a long way to walk and it's tiring, and it is.
I always wear tennis shoes unless I literally, if I have to work a trade show booth, I carry dress shoes in my backpack and I wear tennis shoes everywhere that I walk. And then if I've got to stand in a booth and have a dress code in a booth, then I like take out my dress shoes and put my dress shoes on. But like, do not go for style over comfort because you're going to walk a lot totally, even just from the bus to the front entrance of a show floor. So this is really the trick is you should have a plan. Like, look at the map ahead of time. I know that sounds like obvious, but like so many of us, like we are busy, we've got lots to do, we like in a hurry, but like seriously take a little bit of time and like look at the IMTS map because
and
it's
who can read maps now?
Right. Oh, so some apps have like positioning. I haven't downloaded the IMTS app, so I'm not sure if it has positioning in it or not. But that does help.
It should.
If it doesn't, that would be really nice for the next IMTS. But I don't want people to feel overwhelmed. If you make a plan, that's why just making a plan is so important. Here are the things I want to see. Here are the technologies I want to see. Here are the companies I want to see, and put them on a map. Look at a map. Realize like, oh, these are all W's, so they're going to be in the west. Oh, these are all norths. These are all N's. They're going to be in the north, and group them together by where they are, so that it's organized very well. If you understand that, like the W booths are in the west hall and the N booths are in the north hall. So making a plan,
okay,
not in alphabetical order or just a random list in a notebook or something. Group them together in numerical and alphabetical groupings. That way, I know that this booth is next to that booth because they're similar numbers and they're both in the West Hall. Then they're together. Because I can't tell you how many times I've gone without a plan. I'm like, oh, I need to talk to these guys. And then I look and I walked past it like 10 minutes ago. And then I've got to walk back. And then you're just like walking back and forth in the same area. Like that, it's a waste of time. You don't have time for that.
Okay.
You don't.
Right. I mean, it's many people, all you might have is 4 hours or something, and then you got to get back out.
Right. So really having a plan ahead. The other thing that I would say is if you know you're going to IMTS, if you're an attendee, you should absolutely tell your salespeople of your vendors. You should tell your vendors you're going. And make sure that they tell the booth staff you're coming. Because a lot of vendors, they want to see customers. They want to talk to you. They want to make it a personal experience for you. But if they don't know you're coming or don't know you're a customer, you're going to get just the random dude walking by experience. But if they know you're a customer and they know you're coming and they're like, oh, John, I'm so glad you stopped by. Steve told me you guys were going to come on Tuesday. I'm so glad you came. Like, let's go get you a coffee or something and let's talk. You get a much better experience if they know you're coming.
Yeah. Like I have one appointment with I think with Mastercam, and then I haven't made any appointments with anybody else, and that's just because they sought me out. I should probably go and look up a few others.
And they don't need to be fixed appointments. Like for me, these are literally all the people that I've written down that I want to talk to at IMTS.
Okay.
These are all the people I want to talk to at IMTS. But I only have one of those has a time. The rest of them are just booths and people that at some point while I'm there, if it works out to my schedule, I'm going to stop by and see if I see that person. And if not, that person is an intro. They know I'm coming, and they're going to tell their friends, hey, if you see Will, like, even if I'm at lunch, if you see Will, like, say hi to him and give him the treatment. So it's much better. It's in your interest as an attendee to let your vendors know you're coming and like communicate with them that you're going to be there. And a lot of vendors have special events, like happy hours and after hours and these kinds of things. And so they'll be excited to invite you to those things.
So give me an example of the exact relationship, your vendor. So you're saying you're a machining company and you like to use Citizens. You're saying, tell Citizen that you're coming. That's what that's the example.
I'll stop by the booth, tell them I'm going to stop by and say hi and see what's new.
Okay, so even if you don't do it ahead of time, just do like a flyby and then return back.
Yeah, could be that. I mean, I would just, right now, you've got 8 days to IMTS or 4 days to IMTS, whatever it is. Shoot a text to your salesperson. Hey, we're going to IMTS next week. You guys gonna have a booth there, or you guys got any special events going on? Like, make that connection. Because the other thing I'll say as an attendee is I see a lot of attendees where when the show floor is over, the trade show's over, but there is an immense amount of networking and connections and activities. And especially if you're part of an association, a trade association, there are many trade associations that have events after hours. And those are opportunities for you to network with like-minded business people in a similar situation as you that are in a similar industry as
Machinery
you.
dealers have a big thing on the first night.
Yeah, great example. So don't think just because the show floor closes at 5 that you've lost, like there's nothing else to see. Like some of my best experiences at trade shows have been after the show floor closed.
Absolutely.
So the real trick is, I have a general life rule when I travel is to not eat alone. And so even if it's not an exhibitor buying you dinner, even if it's a colleague from another state that you know from an industry event, like, hey, are you guys doing anything for dinner? Nope. You want to meet up and have dinner? They don't want to eat alone either. So like, make the connection.
Have you found that at trade shows, sometimes you are alone and you go to eat lunch in the food court and you just, whoever you sit next to, you just start talking, and sometimes you end up like meeting somebody really interesting. Like,
totally.
Maybe you look at their badge or what's on their shirt, or sometimes the most random things, because I guess the bottom line is, even if they are random, you have both traveled to Chicago or wherever to see this show. There is some thread, there is something you have in common, and maybe you guys could connect.
Absolutely.
I think you're right on when you said, when you're traveling, I mean, unless you really want to, try not to eat alone. If
you're an introvert and that recharges you and you need that to make it through the next trade show day, you need, those times by yourself, I totally get it. But generally, like, you can eat alone by yourself at home, I guess, unless you got 3 kids like I do. But like, I mean, there are moments where you can be alone that aren't the show. Like, you paid a lot of money to be there. The hotel rooms are not cheap. So like, really, we want to utilize that investment we made as powerfully as possible. And so the networking opportunities, the moments to connect with people, the moments to connect with possible future allies, I think that's a really important part of that.
So you say you're an end user, you've decided to come to the show. How do you find out about some of those after hours things? Just kind of keep your eyes open at the different booths, or go on IMTS website, or what?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them aren't necessarily published on the IMTS website, but if you tell a vendor, hey, I'm coming to the show and I've got an event going on and you're my customer, I'm going to invite you to that event. And then with the associations, typically the invite's probably buried in a member email you haven't read in the last year, right? Because you're drowned in emails, so you didn't look at the emails. So go back and look for, we're part of the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, or we're part of AMT, or we're part of ASME, or whatever you're a part of. Go and see, are they doing some sort of mixer networking event? A lot of them are. And even if it costs you a little bit of money, you're going to have to buy dinner anyways. So like pay that money, just pay it, because the value you're going to get out of that networking opportunity is much, much more than the $30 or $50 that you're going to pay to be part of the networking event.
All right. Now I'm going to go, we're going to go a little more detailed now, probably going down a rabbit hole. And we'll have to get back on course of the trade show. However, you seem like you are a networker naturally. I think I'm a decent networker. I have my moments of good networking. Say you are invited to go to an event for, I don't know, a Swiss machine star or something.
Yep.
And you're there. I mean, I suppose people have different things they're looking for. Are they looking to learn about the technology? Maybe they just want to learn other vendors, or meet other vendors like them. What would you recommend for people to get something out of going to an event when they're there?
Yeah, I think two things that I always do is I always carry a little notebook with me, and I write people's names down as best as I can remember them as I meet people. And
do you think that if you use like the notepad on a phone, that has the same effect as a notepad, or do you think a notepad's better?
I really don't like when people pull out their phones. It's very disengaging, and if you watch it, it's contagious, like a yawn. Like if one person pulls out their phone in a group, watch the next time you're in a group of like 4, 5, 6 people. If one person pulls out their phone, within 30 seconds, more than half the people have their phone out.
Interesting, because I really like my notepad, but you're making me think. You're making me think twice about it.
I usually have it just sitting here on my desk, but it's, I don't have it sitting here on my desk. It's sitting on the kitchen counter. How old are you? But I have just a little. I'm 40 this year. It's crazy. So okay, I'm definitely 42. A paper guy. I'm a paper guy.
Yeah, we're kind of like right in between.
Yep. I've found it's less distracting to people if I have it keeps the engagement going. If I have a notebook and I just write something down, I don't write lots of things down. I usually write their name and their company and stuff. But the one thing that I will tell you is I genuinely try as hard as I can. I'm not perfect at it by any means. Anyone I've met when I'm at an event, I find them on LinkedIn, or if they gave me a card, I'll send them a text or an email after we've met. Hey, I really enjoyed talking to you. That was really great. We had talked about this. Would you mind sending me a link that we had talked about, or something that triggers for them that we met? So this is kind of like getting the cart before the horse, but the follow-up after a show, to me, there is work after a show. And I actually put in my calendar post-show work.
I learned something the other day. It's so simple and it's so gold. Okay. So as I said before, I'm in this podcast. They call it the Podcast Accelerator.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's really cool because you get to have office hours with the grandmaster of the program. Yep. He doesn't call himself that. I called himself that, him jokingly. It'd be kind of a jerky thing to do. Anyways, I told him, I said, I'm going to IMTS. He had never heard of IMTS, but and I asked him, what should I do? Should I be looking for guests? And he's like, all right, well, I think you should be looking for guests. And he said, but this goes for whether you're looking for guests or anything. He said, have the Calendly app on your phone. I know a lot of people listening to this know about it, and many people don't. Calendly is, it's so simple, but it's genius. It's this app. Generally, people send an email, what time should we meet or whatever. And, it's always hard because you're like emailing back and forth. What time is good for you? What time is good for me? Blah, 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 blah. This thing, it just gives you a calendar. It gives people the times that you're available.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just marks it on there and it's locked in. So he says, you go to somebody, have this Calendly app ready on your phone, and then you make a date, boom, it's ready. It's not like, yeah, okay, well, when I get back, we'll email.
We'll set something up.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, like they're emailing with like 30 people who are all trying to set something up. This is already written in stone.
Yep. Or it goes into their bag of doom because they've been carrying a bag around all week with like flyers and stuff in it. And
a million business cards.
If you hand them it goes in that bag of doom. That bag of doom never gets looked at. There's literally a pile of bags of doom sitting on the floor next to me over here. Like, totally.
Yeah, it's going
It
to sit
gets
in the
lost in the
corner.
shuffle. Totally.
The other thing this guy told me, which, I mean, look, I've made a study of serendipity, negotiation, networking, and nobody ever put it to me this way. He said, if you're going to go and you're trying to make, start up a conversation with somebody, ask them what problems they have.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Duh. Like,
I ask that question a lot.
Somebody will just start talking about it. They'll just start talking about, and in a business, I mean, obviously you don't want to hear about their divorce or whatever, but if you can get them to start talking about business problems, so obviously sometimes that could be a really annoying conversation, but sometimes it could just totally create this connection. Oh, I can solve this. I can't solve this, whatever. So that was just something that hit me. You have any other ideas about the networking, and then we'll go to something else?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that you have to be active about is, you've mentioned it, I think once or twice, is when you're having a conversation and you don't think it's creating value for you or leading anywhere, because you have a fixed amount of time at the trade show. Like if you're at IMTS for 2 days, you've got the show floor open for about 9 hours, right? And you're
not going to make it through the 9 hours.
You're not going to make it to your things that you need to make it to if you get trapped in a conversation that's not creating value for you. And you can't be like, dude, you're boring, not valuable to me, goodbye. You can't do that to someone, right? That's really not the trick. So getting out of conversations that aren't creating value for the moment, it's really challenging. I'm a very polite guy, but I typically tell people, I have an appointment, because a lot of times I do have an appointment, but it may not be like within the next 2 minutes. But
that's a good one.
I got an appointment soon. I gotta run. It's like in another hall or something, or down on the other side of this floor or something. I got an appointment. I tell people, hey, I'm just honest with people sometimes. I gotta go to the bathroom all the time. So I'm like, you know what? I gotta use the head. Let's regroup on this conversation. Give me your card, or here's my card. Like, let's connect an email. Let's regroup on this. And so, I think generally people are excited to talk to you, and you're excited to talk to people, but everyone has such a limited amount of time on the show floor that it's really important to make sure that you're able to disengage. So typically, I always try to offer, like, let's continue the conversation at another time, like at the show floor here. Let's try to continue another conversation. So
I just thought of this. Do you ever give yourself a time constraint? Like, you tell yourself, I am only going to spend 20 minutes at this or with this person, or is that too limiting because you never know, some magic could happen and you have to stay?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I don't use a time constraint. Now, that being said, if I'm at a big networking event, I don't know many people, and I've purposely gone there to try to mix up my personal network, then yes, I'll typically excuse myself. Hey, I need to go get another beer, or hey, I'm gonna use the bathroom. I use that one a lot. Or hey, I've got an appointment to meet up with another dude. Like I've used those pretty regularly. I'm giving away my secrets, so when I use it on my friends now, they're gonna be like, "Oh, Will's he thinks we're boring." But
you don't do like, hey, I'm getting a phone call from my wife.
No. I mean, I actually used that one yesterday. I did use that one yesterday, but my wife did actually text me and say, where are you? So that was a legit one. But no, not fake text messages are obvious. They're obvious. Oh. Like, we all know when someone fake looks at their phone.
I don't know. But in any case, I'm a poor liar. And it sounds like you've got some good tactics, so you don't have to actually lie.
Like, I have tons of appointments I have to get to. They don't necessarily have a time on them, but hey, I gotta get to an appointment. I'm not lying to them. I gotta go meet with Josh.
Okay, so that is a really, really important hack there.
Disengaging, yeah, especially if you sit down at a random table at lunch. If you sit down at a random table at lunch, you could get someone's entire PhD thesis if you aren't careful. So the real you really need it at lunch is oh, we got an appointment works really well at a random people lunch table.
What else? What are the other things we need to remember about to get the most out of this IMTS? Maybe you have a day, maybe you have 2 days.
I'm going to tell you, a lot of people are shy is not the word, but protected. They don't want a salesman to like sell them something. But the trade show is a place more than any other where you can touch and use and feel and push buttons more than anywhere else. And so be willing, just ask. What's the worst they could say? No, you can't touch that. Like, I've gotten to wear an exoskeleton because I just asked, dude, that thing looks really cool. Can I put that thing on? And the guy was like, yes, totally. And then I got to walk around with like a lift assist exoskeleton for like 10 minutes. And it was
they weren't smart enough. They weren't smart enough to be offering it out to you that you actually had to ask.
Right. So a lot of people have technology there. And if you really are considering a technology, like this is the easiest way for you. A trade show is the least intimidating place. You're not going to buy it on the floor. You're not going to get a high pressure sale. The worst that's going to happen is they're going to force you to scan your badge, but you don't read your email anyway. So it's not like getting your email address matters. So just ask, can I touch it? Can I put it on? Can I wear it? Because there is nothing like actually experiencing the technology.
Right.
And a trade show is the best place. That's why you paid all that money. That's why you traveled all that way. Put on the AR headset. It was life-changing. I understood what augmented reality was doing. Yeah, that's cool. But the moment I actually put a real augmented reality headset on and actually did a task, it blew my brain wide open to the possibilities of what's possible. And so just ask, can I touch it? Can I wear it? Can I push it? Can I run it? Can I do? You see someone bending some metal. Hey man, can I try that? The worst they're going to say is no.
It's like my mom always says, you have to ask, or you're never going to get anything.
Right. And that guy who's running that press break, he has bent 5,000 of those pieces of metal the last 3 days. He would happily have someone else do one. Right? I mean, like seriously, he's been making that same part for days. So I think realizing that it's a very open mixing of ideas at a trade show and like the ability to really connect with people and to connect with the technology and actually touch and play with the technology, you're very unlikely you're going to break something real when you're there, right? So you're not going to.
I know, and how cool to be able to like go from one CNC machine to another right after it that do the same thing, and then you can see, oh, this one feels cheaper than the other, or this one the button is over here, or really whatever. But
I got to take a step to get the button. Like,
right. Because if you were to just go from one builder to another, like you'd never be able to do that otherwise.
Spec sheets look the same. I don't know. That one's got 5 degrees temperature more, and that one's got 10 more psi or something. But how do I know which one to buy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Touch it.
That is a really, really good point. Okay, so what else? What else are the important things that we need to take advantage of?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm Mr. Social Media, so I'm going to give a piece of social media advice, but really put out there that you're going. Put out there on LinkedIn that you're going. LinkedIn's probably the key place to do it, but if you're not a post maker, if you're not a person who likes to post, that's fine. There's plenty of posts out there about IMTS right now. Just put comments out there. Hey, I'm going to be at IMTS on Tuesday and Wednesday. Because your friends, your colleagues, your workmates from past jobs, they're going to see your comments. And they're going to see that you're at IMTS. And they're going to contact you and say, hey, cool, I'm going to be at IMTS on Tuesday too. And you're going to be able to network even better. You're going to be able to see more things. You're going to realize your friend works at a new technology company you'd never even heard of, but has high value for you. But you never would have learned about it if you didn't have just put out there, hey, I'm going to be there Tuesday and Wednesday. And that friend connected. So put out there that you're going to be there. whether it's making your own post. I mean, I make videos about it. You don't have to make a video about it, but you can either, hey, I'm going to be at IMTS Tuesday, Wednesday. Any of my connections going to be there. Want to have dinner on Wednesday.
I plan on making videos while I'm there. I think like just and putting them on social. Do you plan to be doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn during the show, I assume, right?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I mean, that's an active opportunity to engage. There's a lot of rhythm and hype and momentum around a show. And so sharing content relevant to the show
during the show
is really interesting to people who can't make it. They get to see things they wouldn't normally get to see. It's really interesting. It creates a much bigger feel for the show and for the people. I'm not sure like an individual attendee necessarily that matters to them as much, but what it can do by following LinkedIn or Twitter somewhat, but mostly LinkedIn during the show is, oh, I didn't see that. What hall's that in? Like, if you're checking out what other people are posting, following the IMTS 2020 hashtag, 2022 hashtag, following IMTS 2022 hashtag, you can see what other people are posting and videos people are posting. And then like, oh, that's neat. I didn't know that was at the show. Let me go see that.
That's brilliant. My one being glass half empty on that is that, I just hope people don't want to like get too wrapped up in their phones and then lose this human interaction and the people interaction. This is one of the things I'm telling myself to talk myself out of doing important work on social media.
I do a lot of recording that I use then later in following weeks. And you'll actually see that from a lot of the big influencers. I would not consider myself that, but you see them using content for weeks.
It's a really good point, though, because there's so much going on, and maybe you could really discover something that is going on that you had no idea about.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, really your approach to the show, your planning and creating a pre-show plan. We created like 5-6 years ago. What's your pre-show plan? What are you trying to do? And just for 2 seconds, I'll speak to the exhibitors. If you are sitting in your booth, looking at your phone, playing on TikTok or whatever, waiting for the perfect customer to just accidentally stumble into your booth, you are doing trade shows wrong. Like, we have a pre-show plan. We talk to our customers about we're going to have a booth there. Are they planning on coming? Can we do something with them? Can we coordinate with the customers? Are they having a booth there? Could we coordinate something in the booth? For months leading up to the show, we're coordinating with other exhibitors and our own customers who are attendees. At the show, we're making videos and we're interviewing and we're taking pictures and we're looking for our own product in other people's booths and making collaborative content. And then after the show, we're following up with people and doing the normal sales follow-up things, but we're also sharing content and tagging people and talking about the show after. So there's a whole rhythm.
Did they let you go out of the booth and go look at other booths?
Oh yeah.
Because that's what all the exhibitors always complain to me. They're like, yeah, I never get to go out and see anything else. So maybe
it depends. It depends on the company, how they work. But I mean, we put a lot of value in our people being able to network in the industry. That's part of the plan and part of the strategy.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And so for me, you make that pre-show plan. As an attendee, it's really important you have that plan, especially on a huge show like IMTS, that you know the people and the things you want to see and where about they might be. You don't need to know the exact booth. You don't need to know Balif is in this booth, but you need to know it's in the Lakeside Hall, and I need to look for it when I'm in the Lakeside Hall. I mean, of course, it's nice to write it down and have it in a group, but you don't have to do that.
So when you go, so you go, wait, which is the hall with all the big stuff?
Yeah, for machining, that's the West Hall.
The West Hall. So you're in the West Hall. Mm-hmm. You're saying, I want to go see Index. Are you suggesting, make a laser route to Index, and then just sort of see what you see on your way? Or are you suggesting maybe like, it's in that direction, and then you're just going to kind of open your eyes? Or would you suggest like maybe do different things at different times, try different things?
think it depends how much time you have.
Yes.
If you have one day at the show, you're driving up, you get there at 10, you can walk the show, and then you're going to like drive halfway home. You got one day, you got to have your pre-planned list of booths. You got to ignore all the stuff around you, and you got to go hit your pre-planned list of booths. And then if you have time, you can maybe walk back to a couple things you took notes on. But you could get stuck in a booth for an hour if you're not good at disengaging, and then you don't hit all the things you need to in the day you have.
Yeah.
So I think you really have to think about that on a scale. How much time do I have? How much time can I be free? I mean, I do think there's a lot of value to like seeing what's out there. Like, you don't know every technology that's available to you. You don't know every company that's available to you. You don't know all of your best vendors' competitors.
Sure.
So this is an opportunity for you to see those things, to see those companies, and to make new relationships with other technology partners. So you need time to be able to see it, and you need to wander a little bit.
Right. Because if you're only, I mean, it's mind-boggling. You think about a CNC machining center, you can count on two hands the ones you know. If you Google CNC machining center, X size, whatever, you're not going to come up with that many things. And then if you're at the show, all of a sudden you're going to run into something. You're like, I never heard of this. It's from Belgium. It's from Iceland.
Yeah. And right. I mean, you may not have heard it because it's from a different country, or they don't have strong representation in the US, but it might be the technology you've been looking for years, right?
Yes.
So the other thing that I do want, it's kind of out of the way, but on North Level 1, so it's kind of weird. You'll have to go down to get to it, but it's a whole student area where students are presenting projects, students are working. We're all challenged with workforce right now. And so this is a place where students are engaging, students are looking, they have demos built up, attracting students to IMTS, to have classes that are coming from local schools and things. This is kind of like the student area is in North Level 1. It's kind of like, it feels like you're going in the basement forever. But like, this is a really good thing to at least walk and go see.
I had no idea about that. What is that called? The S?
Yeah, what? It's the student. It's in North 1. It's the North 1 floor. I forget. I think it's called like the Smart Force something. I wish I could remember what it is.
And they have products there that people can go and check out.
It's about apprenticeship programs and student programs and training programs. Mastercam has a booth there. NASA has a booth there. Autodesk, Haas, Festo Didactic has a booth there. I'm looking at it right now. So there's a lot.
Did you say NASA?
NASA has a huge booth.
Whoa.
North Level 1. I'm looking at it right now. Most of the robot companies look like they're there presenting. America Makes has a booth there. So this is like a student area. And so it is worth to see what the students are doing, to engage with the workforce partners and programs that are out there, and to look and see what's going on and how you can get engaged.
Totally got to see that.
Yeah, so I think that's a really important one. And because it's in this like sub basement, it's going to be hard for people to know it's there. And so that's why I pointed out specifically. But I just I'm looking at the map real fast to make sure I'm giving you good advice. But yeah, so the West Building is all the kind of tooling and tool companies. That's where those are all in the West Company, or in the West Building. It also looks like there's an additive section in the West Building.
Oh, that's probably another really important, interesting thing that's going to be at this year, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of additive there. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I'm sorry, I lied to you. So the South Building is where Mazak, this year it looks like South Building is the Mazaks and the Akumas and the Toyotas and the Haas, and I see Index, Murata. I'm sure DMG Mori is here somewhere. I just haven't found it yet.
They have their own there's half of the room.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So there's Fuji Machine. So there's a lot of these kinds of companies in the South Building, and then the East Building is actually considered like the Hanover Fair. Hanover Fair USA. So this is like the automation fair, basically. This is where the automation companies are going to be, like Mitsubishi Electric and Baloff and Beckhoff and Emerson. And
what about the robots? Where are all like, Universal and
yeah, that's a good question. I saw Fanuc in the South Hall. Universal. I'm gonna see where Universal Robots is. Looks like Universal Robots is in West. They're in the West building. So Universal Robots is in the West building. So it looks like a lot of things are kind of mixed together, because I saw Fanuc in the South building, and Yaskawa was down with the students. So it looks like they're kind of all mixed together. They're not on wall in one place.
All the more reason you need to plan.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, it's not like you're going to go to one aisle and it's all the robot guys lined up. You are in Fanuc and Kuka. It's not going to be a big just line of booths all in a row for all the robot companies. It looks like they're kind of distributed throughout the different parts of the show. So it'll be important to make sure that you know where they are.
Wow.
So, looks like UR also has a booth in the North Hall. So it looks like they have 2 booths. So it looks like, I mean, even some of the companies might have 2 booths. So
how many days are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'm there Monday to Wednesday. So that's really hard, because I don't feel like it's a lot of time to get everything done. The one other thing as attendees is we're all looking for education. We're all looking for information and learning. And IMTS is packed full of conferences and educational opportunities. I'm presenting for 2 different conferences, possibly 3. And so I'm going to be on the IMTS Plus main stage as a panelist on the actual IMTS main stage. And then that'll be right in the main area. And then
is that like in the middle between the different
in between
halls?
South and North, I think, is where
Okay.
it is. Yeah, right now. So the IMTS main stage, I'll be on that on Tuesday. And then also on Tuesday, I'm presenting for the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, ASME, in their Tech Leadership Summit. I'm moderating a panel for them. So there's a lot of educational resources. Some are paid, some are free. It just kind of depends on what it's there. But make sure you check out the conferences and the education. It'll be worth your time to catch those. There's a lot of really good information in the presentations as well. So if you have time, if you have more than just one day or a couple hours, there's a ton of education as well that's available at the same time in the conferences. And so you can really, take a load off for a while and sit down, maybe stop walking for a couple of hours, or maybe pick a day, walk for a day, go to a conference for a day and hear sessions, and then pick a day to walk to kind of break up all the walking. There's a lot of different things at IMTS to do and to digest. And
those are some really good little secrets, things I didn't know. I really thank you.
Yeah, and the real trick is some are paid and some are free. So you just kind of have to look through it and see, and maybe be willing to pay a little bit of money to see a presentation. So,
how much do you think a presentation would cost? $50?
Honestly, a lot of them sell by the whole conference, so it's probably a couple $100 is my guess. But
what is one thing that you just can't wait to see at this specific show? What's like one of the top things on your bucket list?
Man, that's tough. There's a really cool booth. I can't remember what the number is. I'll try to find it here. But IMTS for the first time is embracing kind of content creators and embracing. I got to find it here. But basically what they're doing is they put a booth in place where you can meet social media thought leaders and these kinds of people, and you can hear them speak, and they have topics throughout the week where like they'll put 2 people together. I'm trying to pull one up here right now just so you can get an idea, but basically thought leaders and influencers working together in this space to create content at the show. There's IMTS Plus live stream that will run the whole event, where like Andrew Crow, he's the leader of the New American Manufacturing Revolution, New American Manufacturing Renaissance. But Andrew Crow, he's going to be going around interviewing people all over the show floor, talking to them, and it's going to be live streams. So there'll be a live stream of IMTS Plus content the whole time during the show from this group of creators that they created. And I'm not part of that group, but I think it's really cool. It's something very different. It's called the Creators Lounge. I just found the post here, so let me read it.
Creators Lounge. Okay.
Creators Lounge. It's in booth 338-600. Yep. So I think that's
338-600. Okay.
yep. So that's really exciting. Let me find where that is. 338-600.
And is this the first time they've had that?
It's the first time I've ever seen anything like that. So I think they're really trying to embrace this idea of that it's a hybrid experience. You know, not everyone can make it to the show, and even those at the show, we talked about paying attention to see things that you'd never seen before, and then going and finding it. Right. So if you're looking at the IMTS Plus stream, you can maybe see Andrew interview somebody with a technology that you're like, oh, dude, that's exactly what we're looking for, and then go find that booth. So I really
Andrew
really like
Crow?
that idea. Andrew Crow, yeah, Drew
Who's
Crow.
he?
He's a thought leader and influencer in the manufacturing space. He's got a really great video presence, but he's also doing a lot of student and kid outreach to underserved communities. And so they lifted him up as someone to kind of host this IMTS Plus content. So,
Did you mention somebody else?
Megan Zimba is also going to be there. I'm trying to find the list of people, but
Okay.
I'm striking out at the moment.
That's all right.
I feel bad about that, but yeah, it's actually right at the entrance to the South Hall, is what I've just learned. So it's right at the entrance of the South Hall is where the Creators Lounge will be.
All right. Well, those are some amazing tips.
If you want to meet one of those people, I mean, a lot of people in machining know Andrew Crow and are familiar with him. You want to go shake his hand or say hi to him. The Creators Lounge is where kind of all those creators will be. So when they're not wandering the floor.
I like to ask this to most of the people who are on this show. What is something that you learned last week that you found particularly interesting? It could be something that you read. It could be something that it doesn't even have to be related to the industry. Sounds like you are constantly learning a gazillion things, so it's probably hard to narrow down, but give me one or two things that you were just like, oh, kind of blew my mind, or that was just interesting.
Yes, I mean, I can definitely give you two. That's not an issue.
Two is good.
It's narrowing it down to two. So the first one is from a book. I wish I could remember Celeste's last name, but the book was called "We Need to Talk," and it was just about communication and how communication's fallen apart a little bit in our society. But how we can be individuals that really engage. And one of the things that she said in that book, the quote just blew me away. It was, we are born making noise, but we have to learn how to listen. And I thought that was just so powerful, because we are born making noise, but we have to learn how to listen. And I love this because so many people think because they're good talkers, they're good communicators. But good communication has much more to do with listening than it does with talking. And so that book really, yeah. Oh, here we go. Celeste Headlee, Headlee. Yep. We Need to Talk. And yeah, we are born making noise. Listening is a skill you must practice with intent. And I loved that quote. I just thought, I mean, I read the whole book and there were so many good insights in there. It was packed, but like that one to me it's become that worm inside your brain that sticks with you. You know,
are you a reader or a listener? Did you listen to it or did you read it?
This one I listened to.
I listen to all my books.
I'm probably 70-30 listen read, because I'm doing chores. I got 3 small kids. Like listening to books a little bit. If I sit down with a book, they're like, "Dad, what are you reading? Read it to me." So it's hard to sit down with a book. But if I'm doing chores, listening to a book, I'm much more productive. But yeah, I listen. I get about 60 books a year between reading and listening is what I try to do. So I try to consume and educate myself. The mix is probably, this year it's probably 40 business books, 40% business books, and 60% self-entertainment. But usually it's more the other way around. But this year it just happened to be the mix.
Do you listen to a lot of podcasts?
Some I'm real hit or miss on the podcasts. I'll go in through a phase where like all I do is listen to podcasts for like months, and then I'll go for a month. Like I haven't honestly listened to a podcast for probably a month. So
When this comes out next week, you'll have to listen to it.
definitely, I'm curious what I said because I'm as interested in what I said as you are. I'm as surprised by what I said as you are. So the other, I do want to give you the other thing that I learned last week. And last week I attended a More Than Manufacturing Expo put on by a local distributor here in Cincinnati Belting, CBT. But they had an entire day organized of presenters talking about diversity and inclusion and women in manufacturing. And it was a really powerful, interesting session and lots of really good bites. But the one that still sticks out to me is this. And it's about workforce, right? You know, we have a workforce shortage in manufacturing. How do we fix this? And diversity and inclusion is one of the ways we do it. That was kind of the whole pitch of the day was you have to do this through adding women and through adding diversity and having more inclusion in manufacturing. The stat that AJ Jorgensen shared from the Manufacturing Institute in her presentation blew me away. And the stat was this: if we increase the percentage of women in manufacturing by 10%, right now it's sitting at like 28%. If we just increase it by 10%, we will get rid of half of the job shortage we have. We will reduce the job shortage by 50% if we increase the percentage of women in manufacturing by 10%.
So if women in manufacturing were 38%, then we would
have half as much shortage in our workforce in manufacturing. So this is low-hanging fruit for every manufacturer on the planet. Hire more women in your organization.
Yeah.
The problem is a lot of our cultures aren't set up really for women. And so we do have to adjust our cultures a little bit. We have to adjust some of the good old boy club things that happen to retain the women.
It's a whole nother podcast interview.
That's a whole nother podcast. And that was what a lot of the sessions were about, is how do you change your culture so that you can get that 10% of women to join your workforce. But that seems attainable. You know, so much of this feels overwhelming. How are we possibly going to fix this? We have such a shortage of welders. We have such a shortage of machinists. We have such a shortage. Just raising more women in manufacturing will bridge our skills gap. This is low-hanging fruit. This is something we can act on. This is something we can do. I think everyone can agree we should have more women in manufacturing.
Yeah.
So that, like, you asked what are two things that blew me away this week? Those or last week. Those are the two things that blew me away in the last week.
Those are both awesome.
Yeah.
So if people want to find your stuff online, do you have a website, or are you just pretty much like very strong on social? And
no, I mean, all that you see online is Will's nights and weekends and really, really early mornings at like 4 a.m. So no, I just have a strong social. If you look for me at Will Automate, all one word, Will Automate, I'm in everything with Will Automate. YouTube, I have a YouTube channel. That's where I post a lot of videos and basics of technology content that does really well there. But it's Will Automate everywhere. If you look for hashtag Will Automate or at Will Automate on Twitter or Reddit or TikTok or YouTube, LinkedIn's my primary.